All right, Cure International is celebrating 20 years of giving quality health services. The Standard Group is in a partnership with Cure International on a nationwide campaign to assist children with disabilities. Since its inception, the organization has conducted more than 40,000 surgeries, including conditions such as clubfoot, curvatures of the spine, bowed legs and knocked knees. And joining me in studio just to help us understand more about their campaigns and their organization is Abed Milelu, who is an executive director at Cure Kenya. Thank you very much for joining us here on KTN News Desk. So you have a recent campaign.
Yes.
What is it about?
First, thank you for having me here and inviting us just to share a little bit more about who we are and what we do and about our campaign.
Yes.
So we do have a campaign that is dubbed Step In. And the meaning of the campaign is as literal as the word itself, step in. We've done this over the last 20 years, our focus being children with physical disabilities. And we realize, yes, we've been able to cover a lot. We're talking about 40,000 surgeries.
Yes.
I mean, that's a lot in a period of 20 years. Meaning every year, we're basically talking about 2,000 surgeries.
Yes.
We still have a lot to cover. We still have a lot of children in this country that need surgery. We've been able to focus in areas that, I would say are not the hard-to-reach areas.
Yes.
Basically talking about the Rift Valley, talking about Central, talking about Western Nyanza. But we would really want to reach out to the rest of the country.
All right. And of course, you deal with children with disabilities. What are the most common disabilities that you treat?
Clubfoot is the most prevalent disability in this country because every year about 2,000 kids are born with clubfoot.
And what is clubfoot?
Clubfoot is where, a child is born with their feet, curved, inward, like facing each other.
Yes.
And so they're not able to step, normally. So most of the time they will step on their ankle. And so as they grow, they get sores on they are not able to put on shoes. So that is what clubfoot is. So clubfoot is, number one cause of disability in this country. We have other congenital, conditions. We have kids that are born with spine problems.
Yes.
We have kids that have bowed legs. We have kids that have knocked knees, and the list continues on and on. But yes, clubfoot remains the biggest cause of this. So
40,000 surgeries. Of course, this is not something that would cost the organization little money. Where do you get funds from?
When Cure started in the year 1998, because yes, today we celebrate 20 years. We were 100% donor funded, and so we would get money from out of the country, mostly in the US, from USAID and many other organizations. But as we all know, the financial markets, all over the world have not been doing so well. And so over time, we've seen a decline in money that comes to us as an organization to be able to do our work. We are at a point where we have been able to expand our donor base from not only focusing in, from fundraising in one country to fundraising across the globe, including in country.
Yes.
We also have, patients contribute to our surgery. The only challenge is that disability is skewed more towards the very need in our societies. And so we see people who cannot afford even to contribute, even transport to come to the hospital.
Yes, and you've said patients do contribute. How much do patients contribute, depending on, of course, the surgery? For example, clubfoot.
A surgery would cost anything from 100,000 to 500,000, depending on what it is. And so we say our average cost of surgery is 250,000 shillings. Now, there's no patient that is able to pay that amount. And so there are patients who will come and say, you know what, I can only afford 1,000 shillings. I can only afford 10,000 shillings. There's some who go and do an arambi or raise money from their relatives and be able to contribute. Much of what we do is funded still by our donors, regardless of that donation having come down to some significant amount.
Can some of these disabilities be prevented?
Some can be prevented. For example, we see a lot of kids born with hydrocephalus condition. Hydrocephalus is where a kid is born with a big head. And we see, a lot of prevalence of these conditions in, for example, the nomadic communities, because, the young girls, are married very early, their bodies are not even ready for pregnancy, and so they have complications giving birth, maybe hospitals are very far, and so the baby really gets tired before they can give birth, and so we see a lot of that. So yes, some can be prevented, for example, by not encouraging early marriages. Some can be also prevented by also the right diet, because again, remember we are talking about bone-related conditions.
Yes.
But what is very important is, as much as these things do happen, then how do we respond to them as a country? How do we treat these kids? And I will tell you, 80% of those conditions can be treated. We encourage to see these kids when they are still very, very young. And so that by the time they even get to school going age, some of them would even never know that they have disability.
All right, of course, stigma, where there's disability, stigma is there somewhere. For both the parents and the children, how do you assist as Cure Kenya?
We have an, very good program of counseling, because we realized as we started doing this, the biggest problem was actually not surgery. The biggest problem was, the family accepting that they are in that state. The child has disability. And so how did we need to handle that? We came up with a program of counseling where we reach out to the family, we talk to them, so that they can actually, one, accept the condition, accept that something can be done, and so that step is actually where they come for surgery and we're able to do it.
All right, so when is the campaign ending, finally?
We launched the campaign today in a gala dinner today, where we have invited the Deputy President to be our chief guest. And so we launched the campaign today. It runs up to, end of 3 months from today. And so we're excited to invite Kenyans and to say, you know what, together we can step in our little ways to help that kid who is in the village out there and they cannot be able to afford surgery.
All right, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Abed Milelu, Executive Director of Cure Kenya, of course, for sharing some of those insights and for creating awareness for any viewer who is watching us right now. At least they are taking something with them. So, and thank you, of course, for joining us here on KTN News Desk. Away from that, Mombasa County is hosting the 38th Annual Pharmaceutical Society